As the mentor, Mr. Snow, your role is to turn these children into spectacles, not survivors.
What does my mentor do besides bring me roses?
I do my best to take care of you.
You really want to take care of me in that arena? Start by thinking I can actually win.
So, Francis, we'll dig right into it. What was the biggest challenge of centering this on Snow, a character that a lot of people hate from the original Hunger Games series?
I think honestly, the thing that excited me the most also was the biggest challenge. And that's that when we were surprised that Suzanne had written another book and discovering that it was, 64 years before the first story, and that it was centered on Snow. I mean, I love a villain origin story, but it was also the biggest challenge. And it's because you have to take a character that everybody knows and kind of loves to hate, and try to get an audience behind him, rooting for him, empathizing with him in the beginning, not apologizing for him, but just sort of like showing him before he is fully formed, and getting people rooting for him, but then at the same time making sure that we're layering in the sort of breadcrumbs and the seeds of the darkness and the ambition and the need for power and all the things, so that when he goes dark, it feels authentic and truthful and believable.
I think fans are really going to latch on to Lucy Gray. Rachel does a fantastic job. So how is Lucy, though, different than Katniss? I mean, they are, vastly different characters, but how did you sort of strike that balance of creating something that was completely new and fresh and unique?
Well, I mean, I think there's two things. The first thing is that, I see that there's, a lot of people want to compare, Katniss with Lucy Gray. And I think the biggest difference with this movie is that, the lead of this movie is Snow. Right? We're watching like a villain's origin story, and in the other movies, the lead was Katniss. And so, Lucy Gray, I think, gets compared because she's the female tribute from District 12, as was Katniss, but it's not truthfully Lucy Gray's story. So that's part of what makes things different. The other thing is they're just wildly different people. I mean, I think I've said before that I think Lucy Gray is, for the most part, sort of the anti-Katniss. And the things that they share are the facts that they're both smart and they're both survivors, but the way they go about doing things are entirely different. Lucy Gray is a performer, and she's an extrovert. She's a people person. She's damaged, obviously, and has, a different kind of history than Katniss. Whereas, like, Katniss is sort of she's a hunter, she's an introvert, she's pretty stoic. Lucy Gray is the opposite. And I think Lucy Gray knows how to manipulate in different kinds of ways, and is more of a flirt, and is a charmer and a performer, and enjoys singing. Whereas, like, I think Katniss does not, so very, very different, but both smart and both survivors.
Fans are going to get to the end of this. I was super stoked by that final scene. So, Francis, would you want to return to Panem? Are you looking ahead to other films and other stories in this world?
I mean, I would come back in a second, but it's honestly, it's all up to Suzanne. I feel like, I said it at the end of Mockingjay, as did Nina, the producer, that if we were to do it, we'd want it to come from Suzanne, and partially because she's not just sort of going, oh, let's do the Haymitch games, let's do the Finnick games. It all comes from like idea and theme, and then once she figures out what she wants to say, she figures out a story within the world, and usually it's really interesting. I mean, to me, it's always interesting, and so if she came up with something, I would love to come back.
I saw a headline from you. You regretted splitting Mockingjay into two films. But I thought it really worked.
Sure. It's like, look, we knew when we split it that we could, sort of give specific dramatic questions to each one of those stories, even though they were originally combined into one book. But the truth is like the perception in general, and I love how like now, you know, 8 years has gone by and people are sort of perceive it differently. You know, we got a lot of shit for it. We got a lot of shit for splitting the book. I think there was a frustration level with some people, some fans, and all of that. That you did, you know, do the first half of a movie and you sort of have this cliffhanger, and you're waiting to finish it out, and you have make people wait for a year. There's that. I think there's people that think, oh, it's just a cash grab. You know, when for us it was really a way of being able to do 4 hours for a book instead of 2 hours for a book. But this time around, I was just like, you know what? Maybe we'll get some shit because it's a 2.5 hour movie. But the truth is I'd rather get shit for it being a slightly longer movie that's, fulfilling and satisfying in a whole single piece than for like, attempting at some kind of a cash grab or, frustrating people or, anything like that. I mean, that's the truth. I have a lot of people now that say, oh, I like that Mockingjay. You go back and you look at, criticism of those movies, people were pissed.
I did think it was cool. I mean, I think the running time on Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes really works because it really allows you to dive in and spend time with these characters. All right, Francis, before I let you go, you've directed two of my favorite movies, I Am Legend and Constantine. But I know Constantine, there's always talk. So I've got you here. I got to ask you what's going on with Constantine 2. We're almost coming up on 20 years.
Yeah, I would love to do it. It took a lot of like Keanu and Akiva and I have been, through many hurdles trying to get some kind of control of the character again. We finally kind of have some control over the characters. And so prior to the SAG strike, we were sitting down and we were like brainstorming ideas and starting to form an idea. So there's some headway in figuring this out. And I know the three of us really want to figure it out and have wanted to for a long time. But we seem to be closer than ever at figuring out Constantine 2, which is super exciting.
How tantalizing to see all your shining young faces on this auspicious day. I am Dr. Volumnia Gall, your humble head game maker in charge of the War Department and all its affiliated concerns.